Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, David Hale. Like with Season 1, we will continue talking about all things spiritual in a real and down-to-earth way. So I hope you can join me on my podcast journey so you can learn from my own spiritual journey and experiences with spirit in order to help you on your own spiritual journey and development. So join me now as we get into this episode. Hello everybody, I hope you're well. Thank you very much for joining this episode in the Free Zone series. And this is a last minute episode. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I thought no, whilst it's still fresh in my mind, I shall do it. And just based on the show that I went to see at the weekend, the 24th, which was Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, live in London. But before we get into my experience of that, let's just talk about my history of going to watch mediums. Now, although I know I do what I do as a medium myself, I don't want to say I'm picky, but I am, I am. Let's face it. I am picky when it comes to watching certain mediums. And over the years, even before I started developing as a medium, I've been to see mediums, in their live shows, going all the way back to my late teens. I've seen the Tony Stockwells, I've seen Colin Fry, I've seen Derek Acora, and I've seen many more mediums live in action as well. Because I like to learn from them, and some of them do inspire me to better my mediumship and to improve my mediumship. And I just like seeing how other people work and seeing seeing the difference that other mediums that I like, how the difference that they make to other people's lives, as in their clients or the people that they read for. And there's nothing better, I feel, than sitting in a live environment, watching these things happen, rather than watching these TV shows where things are edited and cut and pasted together. So, a bit like a concert, really. I love live music. And there's nothing better than going to a concert of your favourite artists and just being in the buzz of that live atmosphere. And it's the same when I go and see a medium. And just to give you a bit of history about how I came across Theresa Caputo. So some of you may not be aware of her at all, but some of you who do follow mediums, who are into the spiritual world, you may have heard of her. So Theresa Caputo is known as the Long Island medium because she is based in Long Island in the States. And Theresa, her show was one of the things that triggered me to start developing as a medium. So this goes back to 2015 when I had just moved to London in 2015, and I was in a place where perhaps my life had just settled down a little bit, and I was in a different space. And I remember I was lying on my bed in the flat that I shared. And like you do, you go on YouTube and you watch one thing, and then another video suggestion pops up, and then you watch that, then another one pops up and you watch that, and then 4 hours later you've found yourself in this YouTube hole watching all these different things. And I came across clips of Theresa Caputo's TV show, and I'd never heard of her up until that point, but I came across the show and I started watching episodes back to back. And after watching a few of them, something in my head said to me, right, now's the time for you to start developing yourself. Because I've been told, I've said this before, but I've been told over the years that I had an ability. And I just kind of said to them, oh, thanks. And then did nothing with it because I didn't quite see myself as doing it. Because I thought, again, as I've said before and I said in the book, I thought to be a medium, you had to be born special in some way, and that really isn't the case. But it was her show that triggered me to go, right, let's start doing something about this now. So that's how it started for me. So I thought, as she's in London for the first time that she's been to London doing her show, thought I need to go and see it. I need to go and see her in a live environment, because the TV show, the Long Island Medium, it's a good show, but again, I'm aware of things being edited and cut together. But also, if you're on a TV show, you may present yourself differently to as you would in a live environment, like any musician. Sometimes the way a musician sings their songs live is very different to how they sing them on the record. So, I thought, no, I need seeing as her show was one of the reasons why I started doing this. I thought I'd better go and see her in her live show. Now, again, before we get into the details of my experience of watching the show, I have to be very honest and talk about how I feel about how Theresa works. So firstly, I don't agree with the ambush readings, and that is walking up to somebody in the street, in a supermarket, in a cafe, wherever, and say, hello, I'm a medium and I've got a message for you from a dead relative. For me, I've never done that and will never do that. And so I don't agree with that. I do personally think that is unethical. So I will never do that. Start that type of thing. There's a time and there's a place for everything. And at the end of the day, it's up to clients to seek us out for readings and not the other way round. And when it comes to the evidence that we give our clients, as mediums, we are trained just to say it as we see it. And anyone here listening to this that watches me work or has had a reading with me, you know that I say it as I see it. I don't ask questions, or if I do, they're very minimal. I say what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing, and I just give it as I'm getting it. Because that's what we should be doing. You shouldn't be feeding us any information. We should just be saying what we're seeing. And the way Theresa works is a lot of questions that she asks, and it can, and although I genuinely believe she is getting the information, that can be seen as cold reading, because she's asking who's the father figure that's died. Now, what she should be saying is, from my perspective, is I have a father figure here who has passed away. Would you understand that? So there's some ways of the way that she works I don't necessarily agree with entirely. However, I do admire her confidence in what she does. I do like her delivery and the personality as well that she brings forward, because mediumship, getting on the stage and doing a demonstration to an audience, you need personality. There's nothing worse than going to see a medium who is so dry and they are boring and the delivery is slow. There's no personality, and I'm sure people watching this, listening to this, have experienced those kind of mediums. Some people might like that, but for me, you need to keep people engaged. You need to keep the energy up, because that's what spirit want us to do. They want us to be happy. Well, while we're going to see a medium, they don't want us to sit there, be miserable, arms folded, face like a smacked ass. They want us to be uplifted and smiling through it as well, even if you don't get a message. So I do admire her delivery there. Sometimes, yes, on the TV show, she can come across as being a bit much. And I do kind of want to say to her, quieten down, stop screaming so much. But that again, that's just the entertainment factor for the TV show, I think. But coming back to now talking about my experience of watching her live, I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. And my mum came along with me, as did my partner as well. And they both enjoyed it. And my mum, although not a medium herself, obviously she has me that she watches online. And she also has seen some other mediums as well. And she knows what a good medium is. And she knows what she enjoys. And she'd never heard of Theresa before the show, in fact. But she really enjoyed it as well. And it was a 2-hour show straight through, no break, no interval, 2 hour, or actually just over 2 hours straight mediumship. So she must have been knackered after that show. And she actually did a show the night before as well. So she must have been doubly exhausted. Because this work, it is tiring work, having to keep the energy up and keeping that connection coming in. So the hats off to her for doing a 2-hour show. She looked fabulous as well, I've got to say. And actually, she's got a great stage presence. She's got a lot of charisma. And actually, she wasn't, although the personality was there, we had a laugh because, she's quite a funny lady without really realizing it. But she does have that brilliant delivery. But you know what? She wasn't as in your face and as loud as she was on the TV show. So she wasn't overbearing. She wasn't in your face. It was just an uplifting. It was funny. No, she didn't stay on the stage. She went into the audience. She came up into the balcony area as well. And we did thoroughly enjoy the show. And you could see, with the evidence that she brought through, you can see on the people's faces, because everything was on the big screens as well. So you could see the participants she was reading to and then their reactions. And you could absolutely see that what she was saying was having a big impact on people. And you could see that the relief in some of the participants, or let's say, the audience members' faces whilst they were being read. You could see that they needed that message, and that what they were hearing was absolutely spot on and accurate. So it was a really good show. Yes, there was still some parts where she was saying, who's the father figure, rather than saying, I've got a father figure. But again, I think when you've got 2,000 people in the audience, and it was a fully booked, sold out show. There was about 2,000 people in the audience. I can give a bit of leeway with that. But overall, although mediumship should never be entertainment because we're talking to our dead loved ones, it should still be entertaining. You've got 2,000 people in an audience, most of whom are not going to get a reading. You've still got to keep them engaged in it as well. So you can't be on a stage like that and be boring. You've got a lot of other people in the audience to also keep engaged. So we really enjoyed it. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Both my mum and my other half were very impressed. But what I have got to say though is, sat in the seats that we were in, obviously we had people sat directly behind us. And I just want to mention this because it shows me still some of the ignorance of people. And I thought I was the only one that heard this woman behind me say this, but my mum actually said it to me on the train on the way back. I didn't mention anything, but she had heard the woman say the same thing I did. And the woman behind us said to her friend, I'll only believe her if she comes up here and gives me a reading. And then followed by, and if my dad comes through, he needs to say a specific thing to me for me to believe it's him, or that she's real. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, why are you here? Why have you paid your money to sit here with that kind of attitude? Why? Because we know anyone that does this work, or anyone that's spiritually inclined or watches mediums work, should know that, number one, we can't force spirit to say anything. And I've had clients say to me, I need my loved one to say this to me. And I'm very honest and say, well, I can't guarantee that's going to happen because the communication is not up to me. I'm waiting for spirit to give me something that they want to give to you. So if you're expecting them to give you a name, then you've got a long wait, because for me, how I work, for example, a name is not unique. We've all got one. So you can ask for a name, but the fact you just ask that does me no favours, because what my mind will then do is start searching for a name, and my logical brain becomes involved in that, and it shouldn't be involved in that. It should be relying on spirit to give me that name. And the fact the woman said, I'll only believe her if my dad says something, whatever it was, just shows her ignorance in that. And so I don't say it necessarily annoyed me, but I just think, why? Why are you here then if you don't believe it? And also, the arrogance to think that you are one person out of 2,000 people. What makes you think you're so special that you're going to be the one to get the message? I really can't stand attitudes like that. And I've heard people go to much smaller demonstrations, like in a church or whatever, say the same thing. If you want a reading, an individual reading, book and pay for it, and sit down with a medium one-to-one and have that reading. Don't come into a big environment like that, or a big auditorium like that, and think that you're the only special one in the audience who should get a message, and if you don't get one, you're not going to believe it. That's such an immature attitude to have. So if you are that person, please don't go to a demonstration, or don't come to one of my demonstrations, because that isn't, I haven't got time for that. That isn't the right attitude to have. And it shows actually a bit of disrespect to spirit, to say basically that spirit is not good enough, or they don't exist purely because they haven't come through to give you a personal reading in a room full of that many people. That just isn't how it works. So, even my mum was a bit annoyed at that as well, because again, she thought, well, this is not how it works, So again, book and pay for a private reading if you want so badly your spirit family to come through. And also, I just want to say to everybody else as well, if you do go to a big event like that, or even in a smaller congregation in a church, just because your spirit family doesn't come through does not mean they're not with you. Our spirit family walk alongside us every day, but just because they don't come through in that particular environment does not mean that this isn't real. Again, it's not about us. It's about spirit, and they're having their free will and choosing the right time and place to come through with a message. And us as humans not thinking we're so special, I must get a reading. Oh, but if I don't, I'm not going to believe it. Those attitudes, in my opinion, need to change. But there are some people's minds you're not going to change. But that's not what we're here to do. As I always say, as a medium, I'm not here to convince or convert anybody. You either believe it or you don't. But I'm not going to have an argument with you about it, because I live this every day. So, but overall, though, saying that, that's that woman's belief and whatever, she can get on with it. But overall, the show I think it was a good show. It was a really good show. And then the next day, and actually, do you know what? I was going to say the next day I had to go and do, a service myself with another medium called Helen Ayers. She's a fabulous medium as well. I travelled down south on the south coast, and we did a divine service together in, Littlehampton and Rustington Spiritualist Centre, which went really, really well. And actually watching Theresa's show the night, when I was nervous, obviously, because it's only my second time doing a physical platform like that. But actually watching Theresa's show that night before, it really kind of spurred me on, and gave me confidence to do it because of how confident I saw her. And just made me think that, if she can stand on a stage, I know she's been doing it for a lot longer than I have, but stand on a stage in front of 2,000 people and delivering those messages, then I can do it to an audience of however many. There were 20 people. There were 20 people in the audience at the spiritual centre. So it did actually give me that little boost of confidence to go, do you know what? I'm a medium. I can do it, and I'm going to do it. And Mum said to me that she saw similarities between me and Theresa in the fact that, we do bring our personality into our work. We do add humour, and that's really important to me. I can't do mediumship miserably. I can't be stood on the platform being dry and maudlin. I can't do that. That's not me. So I took a bit of, Theresa's personality and confidence and applied it to myself, because there are going to be mediums out there. Look, I never say I want to be like that medium or that medium. I never say that. What I might say is that medium has inspired me, and any budding medium out there that's learning and developing at the minute, don't ever try and be like anybody else. Be inspired by other mediums, but never say, I want to be like that medium, because you are your own personality. You'll deliver things in your way. You'll receive information in your way. But like I did with Theresa, just take that inspiration and maybe apply some of that to yourself, just to give you some kind of boost, or just expand your knowledge or awareness or whatever. Because we can always learn and take from other people's experiences to apply it to our own lives, whether it be from a knowledge base or confidence base or whatever. So that's what I did for my service on Sunday. But that's it for today's episode. I thought I'd just share that little experience with you. And if you want to go and check Theresa out, please do. But thank you very much for listening. Look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you all soon. Well, there you have it. That's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and you found it interesting. There are plenty more episodes to come, so stay tuned, and I'll speak to you all soon.